Does the NFL need to fix the roughing the passer calls from over the weekend? Plus, New York, yes, both New York teams with winning records. Which one are you buying? And our Week 6 power rankings.
You are Locked On NFL, your daily NFL podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, Locked On NFL family, and welcome in to a Wednesday edition of Locked On NFL. He's Tony Wiggins. I'm James Rapien, and we are stacked, we are packed, we are loaded on today's show. So thank you so much for listening wherever you get your podcasts or watching on YouTube, where you can follow and subscribe. And thank you for making us your first listen. Today's show brought to you by and sponsored by BetterHelp. It's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It's professional therapy done securely online, available to people worldwide. And they have a special offer for our listeners. Get 10% off your first month of BetterHelp at betterhelp.com/lockedon. And Tony, let's dive in to the roughing the passer calls, one of which certainly impacted the outcome of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers matchup against the Falcons. The second of which didn't impact Monday night's outcome with the Chris Jones forced fumble on Derek Carr. But it didn't look like roughing the passer to me. What do you think the NFL should do here? Is this just an odd week where two controversial roughing the passer calls potentially impacted and did impact the game in the Falcons case, or something need to be done?
Something needs to be done, but what needs to be done can't be done. And that is, you got to make your officials smarter. It's not going to happen. Officials have been screwing up forever, okay? Now, they get more right than they do wrong. First of all, those dudes are older than me, and they're running around all day in the heat. I couldn't do it. So I'm going to be very clear about my criticism. I would last maybe one drive before I'd be like, y'all just do what y'all want to do. I'm going up here to get me a beer or something. But the thing is, so I'm not going to be overly over the court, but it's so much riding on these games and so much riding on these critical situations. I think the roughing the passer penalty and the personal foul penalties need to be reviewable. Mm-hmm. Correct them, help them correct themselves, because they can't. It's boom, boom, bang, bang. It's really fast and it's really quick. And I know what the root of it is. The root of it is safety and protecting the quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, the one, even Tom Brady, he says, look, I don't throw the flag, but that was egregious, bro. Mm-hmm. Grady Jackson did everything he could.
Jared. No, you're right, Jared.
Oh, Grady Jarrett. Yeah, he did everything he could. He rolled him over. He almost burped him. I mean, he almost laid him down and put him to sleep like a baby. And the thing is it could have been a lot worse. It could have been, mm-hmm. I don't even know how it could have been softer. That's the thing that bothers me about that one. So, yeah, make it reviewable, and they can go back and pick the flag up and be like, almost the way they do targeting in college football. No, mm-hmm. It wasn't helmet to helmet. You know, it was a bad call, so we're just going to reverse it. I think it ought to be a reversal, but I don't think it needs to cost the team a timeout either.
Yeah. Okay. So if you go that route, and I get it. I get wanting to get it right, and you don't want it to impact games and certainly impact outcomes of games. Here's the thing. Mm-hmm. Time. It cannot be this, let's take 2 minutes or 3 real minutes to do it. It needs to be right now. Make a decision. Yep. All right, we're going under the hood. Boom. It wasn't roughing the passer. Keep it moving. If you're going to do that, you need to be extremely efficient with the time. Because otherwise, you're slowing the game down. There's already a lot of ads. There's already you can only watch so much Red Zone, and sometimes it's even hard for them to have every single to pick up an important moment, because there are ads and there are breaks and there are a lot of breaks. And so I don't want to slow the product down anymore.
I don't want to slow it down either. I just want it, but I want it to be right. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like I want it to be in a timely manner. For instance, if I'm on a locomotive and I want to go to DC, sometimes you got to slow down when you're reading the map. You don't want to end up in New York. And I think what happens is we end up with a bad product that is it worth slowing it down that we're not talking about it on Wednesday? Yeah, it's worth it, because, when Arthur Smith, is trying to prove, him and Fontenot, the GM, they're trying to prove that they know what the hell they're doing when nobody else thinks that they do. And they turned the corner really quick. And I'm only going to bring this up because I talked to a guy about it yesterday. They didn't try to stretch out all of the dead money from Julio and Matt Ryan. You know what they did? Nope. Let's take it all right now. If you look at their salary cap, it is all of those guys' money accelerated into the cap this year.
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying, you know what, we're going to take this hit right now. And what we're going to do is we're going to build the infrastructure of our team, and we're going to do it the old fashioned way. And then in 2023, we're going to start having money to be able to go out and get all of these players. And they're telling their fans that you got to believe in us and believe in the process. And they were one of the teams that I had with the Texans and the Bears as having the worst record in the league. And guess what? They could be 3-2 right now if that wasn't the case with that penalty.
Sure, they could.
People's jobs depend on this stuff, man.
Yep. No, and so that's the thing, right? So whether you're going to review it or – because to me, it's hard to get that wrong.
Yeah.
It's hard. Like even in real time, a sack fumble, let's use the Chris Jones one now. It doesn't look – because if you slow it down, it's really easy to say, oh, that doesn't look egregious. No, watch it real time. Did it look bad? No.
Mm-mm.
Well, that's – to me, that should be kind of it. Like with the roughing the passer, and there's got to be – exact rules, but it's an eye test thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if it passes the eye test, most of the time it shouldn't be a flag. There are exceptions to anything, but it's an eye test thing. The Brady hit, the Derek Carr fumble, neither one of those failed the eye test to me. And I think that's the part of it. And you hit on it initially. Like, does it need to be reviewable? Maybe, or it could just be these officials need to use common sense and the common sense aspect of it. But if you do that, then there's going to be some that should probably be roughing that aren't called. And especially with everything that happened with Tua and everything with the way the league is right now, I think that there's been a heightened sense of safety. Mm-hmm. And let's emphasize this. And it certainly had an impact. So I don't think this week alone is going to result in changes, but right. If this becomes a pattern now where there's just ridiculous roughing the passer calls, then this offseason, it's certainly going to change. Because let's be honest here, you can't keep making on the fly. And I'm not saying the concussion stuff wasn't the right thing, but you can't make a bunch of in-season changes all the time. It's really hard to do that. No,
I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that at all. It'll have to come into effect next year. I believe in rules existing, and I don't believe in changing them on the fly as you go, because this is going to open up Pandora's box. All those dudes going to start saying we need to do it for pass interference too. But this is different because this is about player safety, and sometimes it's an overreaction to player safety, and it ruins up the integrity of the game because guys have to get after the quarterback because he needs to operate under a clock. And if he thinks he's safe and it's sweet and he can just sit his butt back here all day, then you're going to start seeing games. They're going to be 58-55 and 57. It's going to look like an old Mountain West college football game. Watch.
Yeah.
Because those guys are not going to be afraid to hold on to that real estate until the very last minute because they know they can't get touched.
Yep. No, I agree with you. And so we'll see how it plays out. Speaking of playing, the Giants, the Jets, which New York team is for real? Both have winning records this late in the season for the first time in quite some time. We're going to dive into that next right here on Locked On NFL. Now it's time for a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. It can be tough to train your brain to stay in problem-solving mode when faced with a challenge in life. And we've all had times where we're focused on the problems, the things that aren't necessarily going right, instead of focusing on the solutions. But when you learn how to find your own solutions, there's no better feeling. A therapist can help you become a better problem solver, making it easier to accomplish your goals, no matter how big, no matter how small. If you're thinking about giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. It's convenient, it's accessible, affordable, and entirely online. Get matched with a therapist after filling out a brief survey and switch therapists at any time. When you want to be a better problem solver, therapy can get you there. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNFL today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNFL. NFL.
And we are beginning segment 2 here on Locked On NFL on a Wednesday. And I wish I could play the theme music, the Frank Sinatra song.
Yep.
New York, New York.
I'd sing it, but I don't want to butcher it, my man.
Yeah, and I don't want you to butcher it either. But the football is always fun when these teams in these big cities and that have a lot of coverage. It's always fun when those teams are playing well. And some people say, I don't care. If you're somewhere in Cincinnati or Jacksonville, you don't care about that. Mm-hmm. I do, because it just makes everything more fun. Like in basketball, it'd be fun if the Knicks were good. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's fun when the Lakers are good. It's always fun, believe it or not, when the Cowboys are good, because they're the biggest villain in the world. Every game I watch with them involved in it is really, really exciting, and I can't stand them. Well, contrary to what you say, you think I'm a closet Cowboy fan, but
closet.
Yeah, it's always fun when those teams
Tony Irvin over here
are good. Right. The Giants and the Jets, at least record-wise, combined are 7-3. 3-2 for the Jets, and they didn't have their quarterback for a couple of weeks. And the New York Giants, Patricia Traynor from Locked On Giants, her G-men, are 4-1, and we were in the cafe of the stadium waiting for the Jaguars game to start, and we were taking bets. Everybody was like, I told somebody I got $20 Green Bay wins this game. And the Giants stood up and stood tall, and they really play the game in a phone booth. So the question you asked was, who do you buy the most? I buy the G-men. Even though they're not exciting, they make every single game look like a bar fight in an alley. And you know what they make? Brian Daboll is built up like me. You know what I'm saying? And when he was walking down he was swinging that arm, and I told everybody, I know that arm swing because that's that rudder. You need that arm. You need that to make. That's what his team plays like, man. His team, Brian Daboll's team, plays like his physique. And it's like you want this work, you're gonna get it. And that's what they do. And it's, to me, it is so much fun. It's like watching a baseball team that can't hit, but they got 4 real good starters and a great bullpen and a closer. It's like, this is going to be ugly, but we're going to figure it out. I love the New York Giants.
Yeah, I think you're higher on them than me, and I'm not trying to be mean to Giants fans out there, but sometimes the who matters. Now, the who doesn't matter when you didn't have many expectations, and if you're Brian Daboll, the who certainly doesn't matter. You got to get it done, and starting 4-1. I'm not trying to poo-poo that, but the who matters. So a 1-point win against the Titans, who played awful, and they're better now, and maybe that win is going to look better and better as the year goes on. 3-point win over the Panthers. Who's their head coach? The Cowboys beat you, and then you handle business against the Bears, might be the worst team in the NFL, and now you have this win. And this win's interesting because if you still believed in the Packers, and I think you were higher on the Packers than I was, then it's a mighty, mighty impressive win. But the Packers, man, they didn't score in the second half. And I know there was the safety. I'm not going to count that. They didn't score in the second half. This offense needs something. And so it's one of those things where I need to see a bit more from the Giants to be completely sold. They have the Ravens this week. That's a good one, because I think the Ravens are pretty good. I think the Ravens are going to be one of those teams that, make a run here and we're talking about them in January and potentially deep into February, or deep into January rather. Then they got your Jags, the Seahawks, the Texans. I mean, we could look at a team that, even if they lost to the Ravens, is 7-2, and I'm still not really going to know what they are. But so there's one element of it. The other is, who cares who you're beating? Just get in.
Yep.
And I think the Giants, based on this schedule, they also have the Lions. They have the Cowboys again, the Commanders, the Vikings, who I know they're 4-1. You buying them? You got the Commanders again. They have teams, the Colts. Who knows what they're going to be by the end of the season? The Giants, they could be that team that comes out of nowhere, and there's always one that makes the playoffs. Would not shock me one bit. Let's talk about the Jets now, because I agree with you. Of the two, I would pick the Giants, because just those opponents alone, you're like, man, there's a lot of wins that could potentially be on that schedule. The who matters for the Jets too. And obviously we know what happened with the Dolphins, but And you know, they sneak by the Steelers. They've lost to the Bengals. They sneak by the Browns in crazy fashion, and they lost to the Ravens. Here's the thing, though. Starting with the AFC North, the first 4 games, going into this year, that's like, man, that's brutal.
Right.
And they found a way to escape that. 3-2 now after 5 games. You do have the Packers this week, which that's going to be a tough one at Lambeau. The Broncos, the Patriots, the Bills. It's tougher to me for the Jets. But I really like their roster. I like Breece Hall and their 1-2 punch at running back. I like Ahmad Sauce Gardner. Spoiler, I'm a Bearcat. The Bearcats, former star Bearcat, is a freak. And I knew that. I knew he was going to do well there. But yeah, I've liked what they've put together. Quinnen Williams making plays, stiff arming Tyreek Hill. You know, and there are winnable games on this schedule. I mean, I see the Bears on this schedule. I see your Jaguars on this schedule. I see the Lions on this schedule. So maybe both New York teams are just going to continue to exceed expectations from what we had from them going into this year. And who knows? It's pretty wide open right now. So both teams, if they keep on chugging, we might be talking about them potentially making the playoffs.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun for me. I do like the Jets offensive package. All of those guys they've done a real good job in the draft of getting a lot of people that are pretty explosive. Like you said, 1-2 at running back, Chris Davis, and more at wide receiver. They just got folks all over the place, and they've slowly built their offensive line back up too. And I do like some parts of their defense. I know Jermaine Johnson was carted off the other day. I don't know the extent of his injury yet, but they've got some really, really good parts. And it's sort of like the 49ers East Coast with Robert Saleh and his defense, and you know, their offense coordinator too, who came from out at San Francisco. So here's the one thing I'll tell you about the Giants. Even their loss was impressive. They battled Dallas. I mean, that was a game where they fought, and Saquon Barkley looks like the guy that they drafted. The Giants remind me of the 2017 Jaguars. Saquon Barkley is Leonard Fournette. Daniel Jones is Blake Bortles. I mean, that year, that year, Fournette had 1,300 yards, and they were really playing with.
I'm not talking about Fournette. I'm talking that Jags defense was
right, and the Giants defense is pretty good. They don't get sacks, but I was really aiming towards Daniel Jones. It's like, as long as he doesn't try to be a hero, he'll beat you. They don't have great wide receivers like the Jags didn't, and he'll beat you with his legs. Daniel Jones is a gamer. Bortles was that way. Cordell Stewart was that way. It's like they don't beat you the beautiful quarterback way all the time, but they are the kid that everyone picked, you know, in the first or second round when you decided you're going to play kickball or basketball back in elementary school. He's just an athlete, and he'll get on his horse sometimes, and he'll run, and he'll do whatever it takes for them to remain competitive. So I don't know if it has staying power, but that's the kind of team that they remind me of. And if they keep going and they keep developing that identity and they keep believing, they're so young that they might actually start to think that they're really good. And we'll have to see how it works out.
That's a credit to Brian Daboll, no doubt. You know, I think you could see that part of it, like the who, whatever. But if you get this team to buy in, and clearly he has, and he's getting the most out of them. So I'll give you that. Who would you take, Zach Wilson or Daniel Jones? I would take Zach Wilson.
I'll take Zach.
Just making sure that there was no debate there. You know how, you know, I might like
you know who the Giants,
you know
who the Giants are? The Giants are who we all thought those Detroit Lions was going to be, eating kneecaps and all of that stuff.
I mean, maybe you thought that.
Well, you know, the whole we're going to play hard and eat kneecaps. That's who we thought they were. Everybody.
What a phony. What a phoney.
Yeah, it's almost. I told you that stuff. That stuff is gonna go off the rails. All of that rah-rah and personality. Now it's gonna, but because they're losing, guess what it's gonna look like now? Now you're gonna look like a flaming idiot for all of that stuff. Letting your team coach themselves in practice. None of that means a diddly poo. I've been telling people that. You gotta win games, man. You gotta win.
I mean, you can't score against the Patriots. And I'm not saying the Patriots are, you know, bad on defense, but what? You can't stop the Seahawks. And I know the Seahawks are performing well. Right? Come on, man. Bite a kneecap or something. Up next, we'll dive into where the Seahawks land, the Lions land, all of these teams in our Week 6 power rankings.
All right, I'm going to let you know about Bet Online. Bet Online is the place to be because they are the leading folks in the industry when it comes to sports wagering. I'm telling you, man, anything you want, whatever type of information you absolutely need, you can get that at BetOnline. I don't care what game you're playing, whatever game you're playing, it does not matter. BetOnline has you covered because it's your number one source for football betting in particular this season. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including baseball, which is in the pennant, boxing. There's a big fight coming up in November, so we think, and even golf. So you head to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more, because BetOnline is where the game starts.
Let's keep things rolling, Tony, with our Week 6 power rankings here on Locked On NFL. And if you're watching on YouTube, you get to see them, but we'll go through each team here and discuss them if you're listening on audio. And the Bills, well, they move up from 2 to 1. They leapfrog the Eagles after blowing out the Steelers. I have a thought on that. The Chiefs are third. Eagles just moved from 1 to 2. Chiefs third. Ravens move up a spot to fourth. 49ers fifth. Chargers sixth. The Buccaneers seventh. Vikings eighth. Packers ninth. And the Cowboys round out the top 10. Let's first talk about the top spot. There's no way, Tony, that I'm leapfrogging the Eagles because the Bills beat who? A bad Steelers team? No. And I know it was dominating. The Eagles played someone over the weekend.
Right.
They played someone in the Cardinals. I know people like to make fun of them and Kyler Murray and all that. Well, they're still a hard team to beat, and they were able to do it. So the Eagles should be number 1 to me. I have beef with them dropping to number 2.
I do too, because the Bills actually lost to the Chiefs, and then the Bills lost to the Dolphins. You know what I'm saying? So we just can't sit here and
well, they lost to the Dolphins. They haven't played the Chiefs yet.
Yeah. I'm sorry. They lost to the Dolphins, but then they played another game that was really, really nip and tuck. So I actually saw them lose a game to Miami. My bad.
Well, and they came back. They came back and barely beat the Ravens. Barely.
That's the game I'm talking about. Yeah. And so the thing for me is the Eagles are playing with the most balance. The Eagles are playing. They're playing with the most confidence, and they won a game on the road, so they should have remained number 1. The team that surprises me in all of this, and I'm gonna admit it, came out of nowhere. I did not expect the Minnesota Vikings to be as good as they are. I did not.
Are they good?
I don't know, but it seems like I didn't expect them to be where they are. I did not. I had Minnesota being in the last third of the NFL this year. I did not have a clue that they were going to be this competitive and win these games early.
Gotcha. Yeah, I thought that they might, right? New play caller, someone who believes in Kirk Cousins, all of those things. And you obviously have a Justin Jefferson who's just a freak of nature. I like Adam Thielen some, but yeah, I still don't know. I'm still not sold on them. I'm not sold really on anyone in that division right now. It is interesting though, man. The Cowboys just keep on winning, and
they got
I don't know if they're that good either. I think Tom Brady's right. There's a lot of bad football. I don't know how many good teams there really are. There's a lot of mediocre in this 2022 NFL season right now.
It's hard to put your finger on why too, because they did the same things this offseason they did last offseason. There's always been turnover. So it's really weird. There's always been coaching changes. So it's just really weird why there's so much bad football being played. Yeah. The next group, we got the Bengals, your Bengals at 11, even though didn't they lose, but they moved
from 6 to 11. They were 6th.
Okay. The Giants that we have previously discussed in our last segment. The Titans are starting to creep back up a little bit in these rankings. The Saints are doing the same. They're at 14. The Rams are at 15. That's the hardest team to figure out. And I think, too, we have to look at their schedule. I think the Rams played a lot of tough teams. The Cardinals are at 16. Dolphins at 17, going the wrong way, got all kinds of quarterback issues. The Patriots are hanging tough at 18. They're Jekyll and Hyde. You don't know who you're going to see every week. The Browns are the Browns. They're at 19. The Falcons are 20th. And the Jets are 21st.
Yeah, overall, I kind of think we know what the Rams are. They can't block, and they don't have enough guys that can get open right now. And so whether it's Odell Beckham Jr., whether it's someone else, I think they need to find a way to get that offense moving a little bit and moving in the right direction. They're searching a bit, as are a lot of teams on this list. The Bengals certainly searching on offense. The Dolphins, who knows what's going to happen with Teddy Bridgewater now, and obviously Tua's still been out. Bill Belichick not committing fully to Mac Jones. I think Mac's going to be the starter when he's healthy, but it's not like he came out and said that when asked on Tuesday. So we'll see there. A lot of mediocre. And speaking of mediocre, a lot of these teams, like the Raiders, 1-4. I don't think they're a 1-4 team. I thought they played really well overall and gave the Chiefs all they could handle at Arrowhead, but they're 1-4 and they're 22nd in these rankings, followed by the Jags at 23. The Seahawks stay at 24. The Colts move up a spot after that ugly win last Thursday night over the Broncos. The Broncos, speaking of them, 26th, followed by the Lions, Texans at 28, Bears 29, Steelers 30, Commanders 31, and the Panthers 32nd.
Are the Broncos the only winning team in the 20s? They're 3-2, right?
No, the Broncos are 2-3.
They're 2-3. Okay. The Lions are probably a little bit higher than I would put them, to be honest with you. And it still shocks me to see the Pittsburgh Steelers at 30.
Yeah, but honestly, Tony, they're bad.
Like, no, they are. They're not good, and they're in a bad division to be not good too.
And you know who is good though, and I think Kenny Pickett showed some signs, but the other pick.
Oh, George
Pickens. Mm-hmm. Everyone talks about Pickett. I'm talking about some Pickens. That dude. He's a freak, man. And I thought he was really good. And now you have a quarterback that's willing to take a little bit more chances, a little more risk, and you're seeing him be a little more productive. So I like watching him play.
Yep, he's a good-looking little rookie, man. I'm telling you. All right, a couple of things to announce here for you. The Peacock and Williamson NFL show is one of them. You got to make sure you check that out on the Locked On Podcast Network. Wherever you get your podcast, it is a great show with two great hosts. Brian Peacock, he's a tremendous, tremendous host for the Locked On 49ers. And Matt Williamson is a former NFL scout. So you absolutely get a different point of view by paying attention to that podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. And check out the NFL Key Predictions. You make that your next listen. Make sure you check out the NFL Key Predictions on Friday on Locked On NFL. Locked On's local experts give you the scoop on the 5 biggest games of the NFL weekend, including Sunday and Monday Night Football. Plus, betting advice from the field's leading experts, our friends over at BetOnline. Make sure you like and subscribe on Friday on Locked On NFL. James, as always, man, it's been fun. And we'll see how this week turns out for the rest of the league. Until tomorrow, you'll have another episode of Locked On NFL with the rest of the crew. But for James and I, we'll see you guys next Wednesday. Make sure you take care of each other.